At the time of the recording of this video, looking on the horizon of what is coming in 2021, I'm personally preparing for a period of economic hardships, which I believe our nation will probably face. I think the writing is on the wall, and if you're not preparing now, you should start as soon as possible. But is it too late? That's a hard question to answer for everyone watching, but I don't think it is. What can you realistically do today to prepare for the uncertain financial future coming tomorrow? In this video, we will cover 3 main points that build on top of each other, and I encourage you to listen to each item. By the end of this video, I believe if you'll hear what I have to say, understand what I'm saying, and apply the principles outlined, you can weather the storm that is brewing on the horizon. We'll go beyond the standard financial gurus' conventional talking points to more critical matters that many never learn. I believe the next 5 to 10 years will require a necessary financial intelligence that if you don't gain it now, you'll be at the mercy of the monetary policies which currently govern our world, trapping you in a cycle of fear and anxiety of what may be coming next. If you don't gain the financial intelligence you need now, you will always be reactionary and never proactively prepared. So stick around. This video is sponsored by Audible, which I'll share a little more about in just a moment. You can visit them at www.audible.com/cityprepping. Enjoy the video. If you're new to this channel, my name is Chris, and on this channel we discuss emergency preparedness and how you can prepare for an uncertain future. While I'm not a financial advisor, I will share lessons I learned on my own financial journey. Now, while many people are worried about what may happen this coming year, if you don't make the changes I'll cover in this video, you'll be concerned about the following year and the next year and maybe for many years to come. But you can break that pattern, and I'll share with you how I did. For those that are willing to venture into change their financial future, are willing to put in the hard work that this requires, and don't want to be constantly worried about what's coming next, even a potential economic collapse, let me take you through these 3 points. The first issue we have to cover is the problem. If you don't understand what I'm about to explain next, the rest of this video really won't be useful. If we don't start by explaining the problem, you'll likely continue through life not making any real changes while the house of cards, which is our nation's monetary policies, collapse around you. The Federal Reserve is printing money at an alarming rate in an attempt to prop up our nation's economy due to the impact of COVID-19. The result is that it is destroying the dollar's value. The Fed is propping up the stock market and buying up billions of dollars in corporate bonds. Our national debt to GDP ratio is about to hit 100%, and the U.S. debt is set to exceed the size of the economy next year. Due to the coronavirus spending, shrinking GDP, and a tax revenue decline, we are being propelled toward a milestone we haven't seen since World War II. At the moment, we currently are the world's reserve currency, and maybe we will remain so for a while longer. Still, we're devaluing the dollar, printing at an alarming rate, causing other nations to look for alternatives. If countries begin to move off the dollar as the reserve currency due to the active steps we're currently taking to devalue it, we will face a massive problem. In 2008, during the last major market crash, the Fed had to use whatever means necessary to keep the markets from crashing, employing such techniques as quantitative easing. The result is that the tools we have available sitting on the table are no longer present. We've effectively backed ourselves into a corner with practically no options other than the one we're using now, which is just printing money. Now, if you follow my channel for any length of time, I try to explain the issues we're facing, but I don't like leaving my viewers with no solutions that they can apply. Before I jump to the solution, let me give you a quick backstory to provide you with context, explain the journey I had to go through personally. Growing up, I was fortunate to see one of the best examples of a hard worker, my dad. He had an unbelievable work ethic. His generation worked through the end of the modern industrial age. He worked the same job for most of his life and was fortunate to retire with dignity several years ago and is currently able to take care of himself and my mother. I consider him to be one of the fortunate ones. That model is all but gone. My generation was one of the first to transition into this new information age. I was raised in an education system that taught the model that unfortunately many still live in today. The system leaves many people behind and frustrated because things have changed quickly in recent years, and those that have not figured it out are left out. It's what they teach you in high school, college. Go to school, get good grades, go to college, get a good job with a retirement program, save your money, live below your means, pay your taxes, work 40 plus years, and hopefully get to spend the last 10 years of your life for yourself. And if you're still healthy after giving the best years to employers. Does that sound familiar? This is how we're taught. And it worked for the most part for the previous generation. But that model, it's dead now. Today we are in the information age, where information is leveraged by technology and inexpensive resources like silicon producing wealth. This means that the price of getting wealthy has gone down. For the first time in history, wealth is available to just about anyone, but many don't understand how to access it. In 2004, when my wife and I got married, we didn't have really any money. We came across Dave Ramsey's course and it changed our lives. Now, if you're not familiar with Dave Ramsey, you may have heard of people like Susie Orman or any of the many other financial gurus. They promote very conservative economic approaches of saving money, living below your means, and investing in several financial products like Roth IRAs. The next 10 years, I believe, will require you to think differently. If you're not actively trying to stay a few steps ahead, you're going to get hammered. Savers will be losers, as the dollar will be vulnerable to the forces we laid out a moment ago. So how do we prepare for a potential economic collapse in 2021? What I share with you in a moment may throw you off a little bit. Most people are looking for a video that tells you the 5 steps to follow for a hot tip where you should invest your money, but it's a bit more complicated than that. This is a prepper channel, and the advice I always give starts with making sure you have the basics in place. Store food and water so you're prepared if something significant happens. And I'm not going to rehash that point here, as those that follow this channel already know that's the starting point. But we're talking about preparing for a financial collapse. So how do you prepare for something like this to make sure you can live through it? What can you do to prepare for what's coming next? I think there's a typical thing every household must do at this point, which is to evaluate your finances, to determine how you can best cut back to make sure you can weather the approaching storm, work extra if you can, or pick up a side hustle. While that approach may be necessary for now, it will leave many burnout and only take people so far. Whenever the next storm comes or the next ugly financial problem arises, you'll be back at square one, having to play defense and figuring out how to financially survive. I wish I'd realized back at the beginning of building my first business 15 years ago what I'm about to share with you. One day, after reading a book for a second time I'd read years prior, I finally figured out what the wealthy understand. The light came on. Dump all your liabilities and invest in assets that put money back into your pocket to create cash flow. Let me repeat that. Dump all your liabilities and invest in assets that put money back into your pocket to create cash flow. This concept was a simple seed that got planted in my brain. And once that seed took root in my mind, everything changed quickly. And I started taking big, bold actions based on what I'd learned. But for anyone that plants seeds, no. Seeds require certain things to grow. And apart from those necessary items, they never mature into a plant. The most important thing to grow that seed, that ideal of investing in assets, comes from being financially literate. I started devouring investment books, listening to audiobooks covering investing while driving, and slowly changing my entire outlook for my financial future. I took a simple concept and I spent time educating myself, looking at examples of others that have succeeded, the steps they followed, and implementing those approaches into my own life. I will list out all the books in this video that have changed my life, but for the sake of time, I'll put them in the description section and pin a comment below for many of the books that have radically changed my views. Before I lose some people saying, what about saving money for a financial collapse, or it's all going to crash soon? Hear me out. A financial collapse would take my hard-earned savings, but it can't take the most valuable resource I now possess, financial knowledge. Once I had that paradigm shift, once I unlocked that part of my thinking by investing heavily, by becoming financially literate, everything changed. And our education system is really only designed to teach you enough to be a good worker. But when you become financially literate, you understand what actions will put you on a path to financial freedom. It removes the fear of an economic collapse because you know you now have the tools and knowledge to make it when a storm rages around you. And I'll admit, it took me years to figure it out, as I was raised on the Industrial Revolution mindset, just work harder. That will only take you so far, and I've watched people burn themselves out with this approach because they never became financially literate. So what should you be investing in after listening to this video? Single best investment you can make is to invest in yourself by, again, becoming financially literate. Once you understand the principles of money, how it works, and how to build recurring revenue streams, you open something that most never do in their lifetime. If I had a time machine and could go back 10 years, there are a few books I would read, reread, and read again. Now, the first book I would grab is Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. It's a book that has radically changed my view on how finances work. The next book, an audiobook which I listen to again and again, still to this day on Audible, is The 10X Rule by Grant Cardone. This book has caused me to dream at levels I never thought were imaginable, and has pushed me out of being complacent with the status quo. From there, if you can grasp the concepts laid out in these books, I can guarantee you that you will begin finding other books to consume. I started buying all the Robert Kiyosaki books I could find and devouring them one at a time. Maybe his books work for you, and perhaps they don't, but I'm willing to wager you can find books or an author that will speak to you directly. And of course, in the comment section, I'm sure people will ask, okay, you gave us a starting point, but what real assets should we invest in? I'm a bit hesitant to outline them here, as some may criticize what has worked for me, or they may try the same and fail miserably. After all, I'm not a financial consultant. I'll share some of the assets I built and invested in that are paying me back, just to give you some general ideas of what has worked for me. But again, you need to find your own path after investing in your own financial literacy. The first, and without a doubt, the most valuable assets are the two businesses I own. They didn't just spring up overnight, and they took me years of hard work and sacrifice building them from scratch. But how would I advise anyone who is either just starting out or has no idea where to begin and feels trapped in a dead-end job or is worried about a potential economic market collapse? Here's my advice. Again, invest heavily in yourself. I purchase books nonstop, as I realized that an ideal taught in a $5 to $15 book could change my life. I listen to audiobooks when I'm in the middle of something that doesn't tie up my cognitive thinking. Educating yourself and becoming financially literate will be critical in the years ahead. We're in the beginning stages of this information age. If you can position yourself now, you can weather the coming economic storms we will inevitably face in this coming year, decade, and beyond. I want to thank Audible for sponsoring this video. As I mentioned earlier in the video, I've used Audible for years, listening to audiobooks ranging from fiction to self-improvement and investment books. A book I loop through quite frequently is The 10X Rule. Books like this one have caused me to unlock ideas and caused me to pursue bigger goals than I really ever imagined. Audible is currently running one of their best deals this year with a holiday offer of $4.95 a month for the first 6 months and $7.95 a month to download and stream thousands of all you can listen to audiobooks, originals, and podcasts included in the Audible Plus plan, giving you a full access to the Plus catalog. It's filled with thousands of titles across different formats, from audiobooks to popular and exclusive podcasts to unique Audible originals like the Words Plus Music series. You can download or stream without limit, and yes, you can listen to them offline anytime, anywhere. Do yourself a favor, and as I mentioned several times in this video, invest in yourself. You won't regret it.